In times of great tragedy, many return to religion as their only hope. There are no atheists in foxholes, as they say. It's no wonder, as the world keeps getting in worse shape daily, that the subject of religion comes up so often, especially in movies. Simply put, with religion there are rules to follow, and with horror, those rules are broken. Take today's picks for the Best in Horror Countdown 2023 through 2024, for instance. I was pleasantly surprised with The First Omen, having been burnt by many a remake, reboot, and requel. This one adds to the horror and does so with a lot of skill, creativity, and passion. At number 7 is The First Omen. It was released on April 5th, 2024, and is streaming on Hulu. From 20th Century Fox, it's directed by Arkasha Stevenson and written by Tim Smith, Arkasha Stevenson, and Keith Thomas. Servants Nell Tiger Free plays Margaret, a nun in training brought from Massachusetts to Rome to receive her final lessons to achieve her veil. After she becomes situated in her new home and new duties at the orphanage, we find out that Margaret herself is from an orphanage, and though she has had a history of behavioral issues as a child, she's always planned on becoming a nun. Meanwhile, Margaret becomes attached to a young girl named Beatrice, played by Mia McGovern-Zayani, who reminds her of her troubled youth. But the stronger Margaret and Beatrice's connection goes, the closer Margaret seems to uncover a deep, dark conspiracy meant to bring forth the birth of the Antichrist. I was never in love with the Omen movies. I preferred the much more sublime and nightmarish extremes of The Exorcist, and when the series went on, following Damien, the Antichrist child, as he grew through adolescence, I still preferred less elevated schlockers like Fear No Evil and Evil Speak, which felt more grungy and fun to me than the drama-heavy series, which seems to have more of an elevated horror feel long before the term was coined. So I was somewhat ambivalent when I heard there would be a new Omen movie, this time a prequel, coming to theaters spring 2024. At least it couldn't be as tame as the Julia Stiles remake we got a few years ago. The first thing I noticed about The First Omen was how it looked. Set in Rome in 1971, the film really captures the look and feel of a lot of those old giallo films I know and love. Not only does the film clothe the cast and extras in era-appropriate wares, but the streets are lined with boxy cars zipping around, and there's a wonderful attention paid to the Gothic architecture that lines every street. On top of that, there's a gritty, grainy look to the film stock that makes it feel like it was made in the 70s. I'm not talking about the grindhouse lens design that occurs in low-budget films that try to make it all look like old film stock. There's just a layered, aged grittiness to the lens here, making all the whites feel yellowed and withered, and really capturing the stony, weathered feel to every location this film goes to. You have to admit, no matter what religion you're talking about, when looked at objectively, any religion is odd with all of its rituals, dramatics, and blindly faithful followers. While I feel most religious horror fails because it attempts to make nuns, religions, and rituals odd from a distant surface level, The First Omen gets up close and personal, which I believe is the real key to why this movie is so effectively shudder-inducing. Director Arkasha Stevenson, who has only done an episode or two of highly effective horror series like Brand New Cherry Flavor, Legion, and Channel Zero, impressed me with the way the filmmaker zooms in uncomfortably close and maximizes all of the senses in order to make this an extremely disconcerting watch all the way through. That might sound like a negative critique, but that's the way I like my horror, disconcerting. Stevenson not only captures extremely disturbing imagery, but she zooms in so close that you can almost smell it. In other cases, reminiscent of films like Jacob's Ladder, she gives you obscured views that makes you crane your neck to see, but also dread what it is you're about to see. There is scene after scene like this, proving the old adage that less is more, and the less seen in horror, the more the mind fills in the blanks with stuff you could never come up with on the screen itself. Adding to the visual assault is the fantastic soundtrack comprised of moaning choirs, organ music, and classic Italian rhythms you'd find in any old giallo. As well as an epic score, again with the disturbing scenes, and there are a lot of them, the sound effects are just as distinctive and disturbing. In one specific scene, a demon tongue slurps as it smears against Margaret's cheek. Not only is this image and the actress's reaction horrifying, but the sound of the slurp throws you into the scene and amps the terror to an almost unbearable level. Scenes like that occur often in The First Omen, and they're all amazing. The lead, Nell Tiger Free, plays a character similar to her breakout role in Servant, but maybe that's just the actress, who has this sort of pure and naive way of carrying herself. Still, because of the extreme things going on, I quickly forgot that Apple series, which sort of devolved into confusion by the end, and was enwrapped in this character. There's a particular scene where Margaret's roommate dresses her in a revealing outfit, and she continues to tug at her blouse that really shows that the actress put a lot of depth into her character. The film follows her throughout the night as her inhibitions slowly drop away, and Free makes every step believable. The rest of the cast is top tier. You've got major talents here like Sonia Braga, Ralph Ineson, Charles Dance, and Bill Nighy. These are actors with weight and power, filling out the cast, and all of them giving their all. Now, The First Omen isn't perfect. Its derivative is all get out. If you've seen Possession, Jacob's Ladder, and of course the original Omen series, you'll notice entire scenes, especially one towards the very end, are complete lifts from those earlier, more effective movies. While one key Omen scene is repeated, and of course made more extreme with fire for modern audiences, the film doesn't do a lot of homage to the original series. It still exists within that universe and plants that point home at the end, but The First Omen does an impressive job of standing on its own. For a prequel movie I had zero expectations of and no excitement to go see, The First Omen was surprisingly good. While it attempts to throw out twists and turns, it's pretty obvious from the get-go how the whole thing is going to play out. But despite the predictability of the story, it manages to pepper in one shocking scene after another. If other films would treat the source material as well as The First Omen does, the horror genre would be a much better place. As is, enjoy The First Omen, as it feels like that odd instance where I like the modern prequel much more than the original material. I intentionally left Immaculate off the main countdown, mainly because, unlike The First Omen, it still felt like your run-of-the-mill nunsploitation devil child film. Still, I recognize that it should be mentioned. So here we go. Immaculate was released on March 22nd, 2024, and is streaming on Hulu. It's directed by Michael Mohan and written by Andrew Lobel. Cecilia, played by Sydney Sweeney, is a young American nun arriving at an Italian convent. She's welcomed with open arms, but soon after her arrival, Cecilia finds out she is pregnant, even though she attests she is a virgin. While Cecilia and her fellow nuns believe she's part of the Immaculate Conception, destined to birth the new Jesus, some doubt her honesty and purity. But all are ignorant to what is really happening, a deeply secretive plot to bring the Antichrist into this world. I think it's unfair to compare Immaculate with The First Omen, but because both hit theaters within months of each other, and also have very similar plots, comparisons are inevitable. I'm sure neither film knew the other was being made, and it was some ad wizards who decided to toss them out at the same time, and Immaculate is a perfectly fine religious horror film with some very exceptional parts, which I will get into in a second. But compared to the tactile and potent horror on display in The First Omen, Immaculate pales in comparison. One thing that makes Immaculate a standout is that it captures a star on the rise. Sydney Sweeney has made a name for herself by oozing sex appeal. Her whispery and monotone voice, those sleepy eyes, along with a body that won't quit, have made her a Hollywood starlet overnight. It's admirable that Sweeney goes against type and plays a nun in this role, and though there are multiple scenes of nudity, and it's hard to cover Sweeney's curves within a nun's habit, she does show off her acting talents quite well here, commanding most scenes she's in. Still, there has been a long history of nunsploitation films that has fetishized those ladies of the cloth, and Immaculate seems to shamelessly take advantage of Sweeney's sex appeal despite her devout acting. It's these sleazy aspects, such as multiple scenes of Sweeney in the shower or bath and in various states of undress, that seems to be fully embraced by the director, even though Sweeney is treating it all like Shakespeare. Good for her for trying to make this film better than it really deserves to be. While gory and violent, one of the things that separates Immaculate from The First Omen is that the latter is up close and personal during those scenes of horror. You feel the horrors going on in The First Omen on a tactile level. Immaculate takes a more traditional view of the spooky and disgusting parts. It stands back and amps up the oddity of the convent, the nuns, and the gruesome and scary acts and details they convey. Because of that, Immaculate's gore, and there is gore aplenty, is less effective. That is, except for one scene. Close to the end, we do get right up in the face of Sydney Sweeney, and these are the most compelling moments of the film, making it stand out among many in its genre. Had more of this film been in your face as these final raw moments, it would have been a much more effective movie overall. While Immaculate contains a lot of gruesome and downright blasphemous scenes that work in an icky-ooky way, they feel like standard operating procedure for an Antichrist horror movie. And there's been a lot of them through the years. It's this final scene that elevates the film and makes it feel dangerous and highlights Sydney Sweeney's talents as a brave and bold actress. I think any other year, Immaculate would have made more of an impact. It's an effective little nunsploitation flick, but because it was released in the same year as The First Omen, a much more superior film, it feels more like your run-of-the-mill religious horror film. I had fun with the film as it goes through the motions of blasphemous religious imagery, fetishized nunny stuff, and effective gore, but despite its in-your-face ending, it fails to stand apart from many other movies in this overcrowded subgenre of horror. Once again and always, feel free to agree, disagree, or how about you play along at home and give me your own picks for your favorite horror movies. It's October, so let's talk horror. Come back tomorrow for the next level in the Best in Horror Countdown. Be sure to hit all of those pertinent bells and whistles down below, and you'll never miss a post. Happy Halloween, folks. Please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel, and ring that bell for notifications. You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're